Mr. Uday Mahorkar, senior editor, India Today, is still with us. That's what we're getting to hear. But to give our viewers perspective, what you're seeing, visuals coming in from the Sabarmati Ashram. From here on, Narendra Modi would be taking his Chinese counterpart for a stroll up the Sabarmati Riverfront. But this is what encapsulated the entire day. Today, at 2:30 p.m., the Chinese president touched down in Ahmedabad. Entire red carpet ceremony. Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, welcoming Xi Jinping and his wife at about 3 p.m. Then it was to business. 3 important MOUs were signed at the Hyatt Hotel in Ahmedabad at about 4:15. India and China signed bilateral agreements. Now the 3 important MOUs, one for an industrial park in Gujarat, another for a sister city, a third is between the governments of Gujarat and a Chinese province. Well, that is what encapsulated the entire day right from the beginning till now. Right now, with what we are witnessing is that it's the cultural experience which has taken over business. The business continues tomorrow as the Chinese president will be in Delhi to continue his 3-day visit. But today belongs to Ahmedabad. 2:30 is when he touched down. And right now he is at the Sabarmati Ashram. Narendra Modi personally giving him a tour of the museum dedicated to the Mahatma. After that, quick dinner is being organized at the riverfront is what we are getting to know. Cultural event encapsulating the culture of India there. But the dining experience is reserved to be completely Gujarati. All right, Gaurav Sawant is back with us at this point of time, and so is Uday Mahorkar, senior editor, India Today. Uday, that's what we were talking about. You know, this bonhomie that we see on our television screen, India does need to be cautious. History stands testimony to that.
Absolutely. You see, China, I would say, China is a communist country. Let us not forget, They are wedded to a certain ideology. When you talk about shared heritage, we talk with total honesty, How much commitment they have when we talk about shared heritage, we don't know. They have been giving very positive signals, and when they invited Modi 3 years ago to China, I think that was a great step forward because entry was barred for Modi in UK and US. Having said that,
yes.
I would say China still remains the biggest challenge for Modi when it comes to our look-is policy, because.
Right.
China is a communist country and they are wedded to a certain ideology. So while stressing on cultural exchanges, trade, we cannot overlook the fact that national security is a big issue for India when it comes to China. The
right.
way it is trying to broaden its base through Gwadar port, say Sri Lanka, Burma. No, I think Myanmar, I think we need to be cautious. Very true.
All right. Appreciate you joining us. Clearly, China is one of the most difficult countries to maneuver diplomatically, and Narendra Modi trying to walk that tightrope as we speak. Continuous coverage there, gentlemen. Gaurav Sawant, Uday Mahorkar still with us, both getting us the very latest on what's taking place in the state of Ahmedabad, the city completely abuzz for the first time. A Chinese president is visiting. All right, we are not going to go to a break. Coming back to the latest visuals that you're seeing on your television screen, the dignitaries pulling in. That you see is the Chinese president's wife. Once again changed for the cultural evening. Gaurav Sawant is still with us. Gaurav, if you can hear me, can you take us through with the itinerary there? We do know now they're going to walk alongside the Sabarmati Riverfront. After that, a cultural experience, and then a sit-down Gujarati spread. And we're already getting visuals of that, Gaurav. We can see, the participants in that cultural event rehearsing on the backside of these massive Swiss tents that you can see on the right-hand side. Once the camera pulls out, you get a better picture for the viewers who are just joining us. But this is the Chinese president's wife being a walkthrough by the Sabarmati. It's over to you, Gaurav. Give us the itinerary for the evening.
Well, the book, there's a book that's just been presented to the Chinese president. It's a book on the life of Mahatma Gandhi. There's a spinning wheel, Mahatma Gandhi's Charkha. That's also been presented to the Chinese president. And that is where he takes a little of Indian culture with him. Now, as they walk down the Sabarmati Riverfront, it's this dance, elaborate dances, Garba, Dandiya Ras, which talks about India's ancient culture, India's ancient heritage. That will be spoken of. There are these pamphlets printed both in Chinese Mandarin and in Hindi, telling the Chinese president and the other guests who are there what this is all about, and that is also something that they carry with them. So a glimpse of India's soft power on display here at the Sabarmati Riverfront. Then they walk down into these 3 tents that you see there. That is where food has been laid out in very traditional Gujarati thali style. It's a huge thali with several small katoris, in it, and little portions of all the vegetarian Gujarati food will be served to the Chinese president, his wife and the entourage to sample, and then they go through these 150 odd dishes that we are told, from juice in the beginning.
All right, Gaurav, I'm going to come in. Just stay with us. And the reason I'm coming in is with what you were talking about, that Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Luan are taking a walk. We can see, of course, his wife Peng Luan taking a walk alongside the Sabarmati, and that cultural experience that Gaurav was talking about right now on display. We're going to make our viewers just hear with what's going on there and come back right to Gaurav Sawant. There you have it. That is Peng Luan, the Chinese president's wife. A guide been given to her, and he's explaining to the Chinese president's wife on the dance that is taking place right now in front of her. With what we are being told, it's just not this. There are a number of performers lining up the Sabarmati Riverfront as the Chinese president and his wife will take a stroll there. With what Gaurav was also telling us, gifts been handed over to the Chinese president, partly a hand-spun garland which Narendra Modi himself garlanded the Chinese president with, and a book has also been given to the Chinese president, and that after both Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping paid tribute, paid homage at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi. From here on, all the Chinese president, but these visuals, of course, of his wife Peng Luan, they will be moving to the 3 Swiss tents which have been put forth at the Sabarmati Riverfront, and any of our viewers have seen that. It is a spectacular sight. Over 150 Gujarati dishes lined up, and then what is expected will be a sit-down vegetarian Gujarati thali spread for both the Chinese president and his wife. We're going to keep getting our viewers the very latest, but to take our viewers who are just joining us to the very latest, 2:30 p.m. was when the Chinese president touched down in Ahmedabad. Remind you, this is the first Chinese president to visit this city. The city completely abuzz with the activity there, and a clear mandate was given out this time. Make yourself look to be the superpower that you want to be. Well, that was what Narendra Modi had told Anandiben Patel, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and that's what our sources have confirmed to us. But after that, it was business. Both Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi at the Hyatt Hotel in Ahmedabad signed bilateral agreements. They signed a sister city pact between Guangzhou in China and the city of Ahmedabad. This was spearheaded by Narendra Modi himself, where he wanted head of state to come and visit a city other than the national capital, and Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, being the first to do so, visiting the state of Ahmedabad. Now, 3 important MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, were also signed. One for an industrial park in Gujarat, the other for a sister city, and a third between the governments of Gujarat and a Chinese province. But this is the cultural spread. That was business, and now the evening belongs to a cultural experience being dished out, being put forth for the Chinese delegation. 3 Swiss tents, you just saw them there along the Sabarmati front. The Swiss luxury tents are where the dinner is being served, the fountains on full display, and of course, performances being organized as a spectacular cultural event. 7:30 p.m. is when dinner is expected to be served. It's early primarily because both Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping would be flying to the national capital, and business will start from tomorrow morning itself. Earlier on, there was word that India might want to downplay the border disputes and the fresh one currently being faced in Leh in Jammu and Kashmir, but the latest that we're getting in is that India very firm and would be talking about the border disputes with China, and that would be one of their primary concerns, and will be discussed in the interests and concerns of the two countries with bearing on the ties, including, like we said, the boundary issue. So as this delegation, the Chinese delegation makes its way across the Sabarmati front, you can see Garba dancers on one side and of course the other dancers there. So the first lot was the Chinese president's wife, Peng Luan, who was escorted down the Sabarmati Riverfront, and now you can see Narendra Modi along with Xi Jinping being taken for a stroll along the Sabarmati, and there's a reason for it, because Narendra Modi extremely proud for what he's created. When he took over as the chief minister of Gujarat, the Sabarmati, with many call, was nothing but an open drain, and he turned that river around, and anyone who's seen the riverfront in Ahmedabad would know that it is a spectacular sight. He was the brain behind the Sabarmati ashram dedicated to the Mahatma Gandhi, and that's the reason why he's taking so much interest, and that's the reason why this evening is being organized instead of a hotel ballroom at the Sabarmati ashram. Anyone who's been to Ahmedabad would know that being a tourist, a visit to Ahmedabad is not quite complete without a visit to the Sabarmati ashram. All right, I'd like to cut across to Gaurav Sawant. The press has been kept a little away, is what we are understanding. The cultural event on in full display. Narendra Modi is escorting Xi Jinping there for a quick stroll as the dancers on one side, and they're making their way to the 3 Swiss tents where a proper spread for dinner is being organized there. Narendra Modi himself is escorting the Chinese president. Gaurav Sawant is back with us. You know, Gaurav, it's the full spread, you know, where the red carpet is concerned. A clear mandate has gone out that you've got to pretty much present, depict on what you want to be, and that's what you were telling us, that the diktat given was be the superpower, present yourself the superpower that you want to be tomorrow.
Speak to the Chinese in a language they understand. That's the message that's gone out of here. And you know, where the giant hoardings and posters that have been put up all over Ahmedabad that say Mega City Ahmedabad welcomes His Excellency the Chinese President Xi Jinping. It's in English, it's in Mandarin, and the biggest font sizes of the Chinese Mandarin language, and it's in Hindi. So that message goes across. Someone known to Prime Minister Narendra Modi was describing his visit to China when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and he said that Narendra Modi had specially printed visiting cards which gave out his name as Nalan. That's easy on the Chinese tongue. It's also a 17th century Qing dynasty poet, very popular in China.
Right.
Now, Narendra Modi himself did not make a presentation, but he had a Chinese businessman who had a positive experience in Gujarat make a presentation that got a lot of other businessmen and industrialists to invest in Gujarat.
You know,
with that background,
yes,
this meeting.
Gaurav, very diplomatically,
in this
extremely
meeting,
deft,
yes,
is what you're seeing the Prime Minister being at this point of time. Now, this visit comes in between his Japanese visit and then, of course, next week when he leaves for the United States of America. Even when he broke protocol, came back from Colombo, received the Chinese counterpart, diplomatically, he's pretty much pat down.
Oh, he has a full diplomatic calendar from the word go. He hit the ground running when he invited SAARC heads of state for his swearing-in ceremony. Then his engagement with this entire region, not just South Asia, but the fact that he went out to Japan, the first country he visited outside the subcontinent, the invitation to President Xi Jinping, the visit to the United States, then the visit to Brisbane, he's going to Australia, and the warm ties that India and Australia now hope to forge in the times to come, the nuclear deal with Australia. So in all of that, it's advantage India that the Prime Minister's new team hopes to, score. The clear message is India is out there to claim its place in the world. 21st century belongs to Asia, and in Asia, working along with China and Japan, it belongs to India. That's the message New Delhi was hoping to send out, Preeti.
Right. Gaurav, you're a little away from where, the Prime Minister is this Chinese head of state. But take us through the itinerary, because visually what's on display is this massive cultural event. To give you a case and example, both of them, Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping, have now sat on a traditional a jhula, a traditional swing there, and they're witnessing this cultural expanse laid out in front of them.
That's right, Preeti. It's the culture of Gujarat, it's the culture of India in the most informal style. As you were also correctly pointing out, this isn't a meeting that's taking place in some five-star hotel with very strict-looking officials on both sides, as has been the case in the past. This is sleeves rolled up, relaxed atmosphere meeting. The atmospherics are all right. You soften your guest, you welcome your guest. The traditional Gujarati hospitality is on display here. And
yes,
after that, it's the hard-nosed, whether it's business bargaining, economy bargaining, or strategic talk on boundary dispute, all of that in Delhi tomorrow. But the right environment is being created now.
And that's what expected. Of course, it's business tomorrow. It was business earlier, but the evening clearly belongs to this cultural experience. This cultural experience not being had in a synthetic fashion. Of course, this has been created as well for the Chinese president, but not inside staccato ballrooms, but at the Sabarmati ashram outside, the Prime Minister being extremely casual, himself taking the Chinese counterpart through everything, and body language very casual there. Gaurav, with the way he's conducted himself, we saw him in Japan, and he's taking that same, a gracious guest. We saw him being in Japan. We've seen that ease that he is with when he's entertaining the Chinese president. It's quite interesting. Maybe not better, but definitely very different to what India has seen with the other heads of state.
This is a different head of government, no doubt. Quite unlike many we've seen in the past. He goes out, he reaches out to people, he engages with people. I was reporting on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit both to Nepal and to Japan, and in both the places, the way he reached out to the people, the way he reached out to the government, the way he reached out to masses in general, very, very different. In Nepal,
Gaurav, hold on, just coming back to you. Gaurav. I'm afraid I'm just coming in for just 10 seconds, just taking our viewers through what we were telling them earlier. This was planned. Narendra Modi had planned to take a quick stroll along the Sabarmati front, escorting the Japanese president there, talking about how he cleaned up the river. That was on the agenda, because this is pretty much when the brainchild of Narendra Modi, when he took over as the Gujarat chief minister. Sabarmati was not very clean. Many called it an open drain. He turned the river around, and that's what we're witnessing right now. Narendra Modi taking a quick stroll along that riverfront with the president of China. I'm afraid, Gaurav, I came in there just taking our viewers through what we are witnessing right now on our television screen. We know you're a little bit away, but yeah, it's over to you. Carry on.
So, what you and I were talking about was his engaging Japan, and that becomes extremely important at this stage, because while you watch all the diplomatic niceties taking place in front of you, that vexed boundary issue remains, and that vexed boundary issue, both sides would want to address it from a position of strength. From what my sources in the government are telling me, India will not take a weaker position. India is in no hurry to address that boundary dispute or solve it tonight. They are waiting to ensure that there is no flare-up, that the environment is created for economic relations between the two countries, for investment from China, which is win-win for both, and that we are equal partners. India is not a subaltern state. That message at every point India will give across to China and to other engaging partners, that in no situation India will be a subaltern state or a junior partner, either in the Indo-Ocean
And that kind of
region,
interest, Gaurav, one final question before we let you go. That kind of interest already been generated, and we can see that in terms of investment. While, Japan was very quick, to take over the Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train route, China itself has now invested in the other.
Well, China has made big offers. China wants to invest not just in the Shinkansen, not just in the bullet train, but in other high-speed trains. China wants to lay tracks. China wants to work on the signaling system, automation system. All of that, it wants to invest on terms that are good for India. And what China hopes, from what sources are telling us, that the traditional reticence on the part of India to get China into major infrastructure projects perhaps will not be there in the new regime. While there may not be a problem in ports and roads, there may be a problem in certain other aspects. So how will that be contained remains, the big question. And that is that'll be the test of Narendra Modi's diplomacy tomorrow in New Delhi.
Well, walking that tightrope of diplomacy with China has never been easy, and Narendra Modi clearly attempting that as we speak. To take our viewers through the very latest that we are witnessing, we're going to let Gaurav Sawant go for a little while. We're going to come back right to him, where he'll be talking us through the very latest. But what you're witnessing, Narendra Modi, flanked by the Chinese president and his wife Ping Luan on the other hand, taking a quick stroll along the Sabarmati. It's been an eventful day, and we're going to show those pictures for our viewers as well. 3 pictures there, which we're going to show for our viewers. Earlier on, right after the Chinese president had landed, he was received by Narendra Modi. From there on, 3 MOUs were signed at the Hyatt Hotel in Ahmedabad. There was business there, and the evening now reserved for a cultural experience when it will get back to business and talks starting tomorrow, the second day of the visit of the Chinese president to India. He's there on a 3-day visit, but this evening now belongs to his cultural experience, and that's what we are witnessing there, not just a Gujarati cultural experience as the Chinese president along with the Indian Prime Minister take a stroll along the Sabarmati, a cultural expanse being organized for them. It's an early dinner is what we are being told, 7:30 p.m. and the reason for that primarily is that both Narendra Modi and the Chinese president would be taking a flight back to the national capital, and tomorrow business will resume. But right now, as we said, this evening belongs to that cultural experience on display. Usually, we've seen stuff like that happen in hotels, in ballroom, in staccato formal settings, but this is a more relaxed, casual experience being allowed, also being constructed none else by the Indian Prime Minister at the Sabarmati Ashram. Gaurav Sawant is back on the phone line with us. Gaurav, we do know that there's dinner at about 7:30 p.m. and after that both Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping will be taking a flight back to the national capital. Now, what's on the table tomorrow? Can you give us a quick update on what we can look forward to in terms of talks, in terms of business, in terms of issues relating to the border dispute? Because while this whole bonhomie is being displayed right now at the Sabarmati Ashram, what's going on in Demshok, in Leh, Jammu and Kashmir is an entirely different story.
And those are 2 realities of our times that India and China will have to live with, and those are realities India and China will have to address. Now, China, from what my sources in the government are telling me, always likes to engage from a position of strength. India intends to do just the same. So, even though while there's a good, dance, drama, food happening at the Sabarmati Riverfront, this will not result in border incursions stopping. So that's a reality check that the government says we need to, come to terms with. These border incursions will continue to happen till the time there is a dispute about where the boundary actually lies. The best way forward is to evolve a mechanism to solve it, and till then ensure it does not lead to any flare-up. That's point one. Point two, at the same time, boundary disputes should not be permitted to hold economic cooperation between the two countries hostage. India is looking forward to Chinese investment in mega cities, mega-city projects, Ahmedabad being one of them, industrial park coming up in Maharashtra, industrial park in Gujarat, high-speed trains, laying of train tracks, port development, roads leading to port development, infra development, dedicated freight corridor development. These are areas where India and China hope to take this relationship forward when they talk tomorrow.
You know, Gaurav, there's a lot of conjecture in at what capacity will the border issues be discussed. Now, there is a train of thought which suggests that India are not very keen to taking up the border issues in an aggressive fashion. However, there is one which goes on to suggest that they will be discussed in the interest and concerns of the two countries. Now, can you give us details at what level will they be discussed at?
Under the current mechanism, the boundary issue has been left to the National Security Advisor on the Indian side and the Special Representative, a Deputy Foreign Minister, on the Chinese side. There have been 17 rounds of boundary dispute. By and large, the political issue on how to take this mechanism forward had been decided. Then there was a change in government. The Narendra Modi government was sworn in. Now, will Ajit Doval, the National Security Advisor, will he remain the government's main interlocutor? Or will perhaps Shyam Saran is one of the names, former Foreign Secretary, will he be appointed as a new interlocutor? Will there be another interlocutor? Will it be upgraded? All of that needs to be addressed. That is an issue that is being talked between India and China. This issue will be taken up at the level of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. A solution, the road ahead will be decided, not a solution tomorrow.
You know, and history does stand testimony, Gaurav, that when India engages with China, they need to do it extremely cautiously, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You cannot take, there is no way. I mean, there is not even any talk of taking China at face value. You know, if you look at history, in the 1950s, early 49-50 was when Sardar Patel had warned then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru about how to engage with China. The Indian Army in 1960 carried out an elaborate military exercise that said China will invade in the next 2 years. Unfortunately, the then government did not pay attention to that, and you had a war with China. In 65 and in 87, twice, 67 and 87, you had instances of once again China coming into Indian territory, but both the times the Indian Army responded very aggressively, and you haven't had a situation ever since. The thinking in India is the moment India responds in an aggressive manner, China backs down. So you need to stare China down. At the same time, you need to engage with China diplomatically.
Right.
The stronger India is, the better it is for both countries to decide on this issue.
Well, you're bang on there. It's diplomatically an extremely tight rope to walk where it comes down to China, and Narendra Modi attempting just that. Those three pictures that you see on your television screen, want to take our viewers through that. Earlier on, right on the right-hand side, that picture where it was business, three important MOUs that were signed between India and China. To take you through what those MOUs were, well, the agenda was quite clear, and the three MOUs were signed between the two countries. One was, of course, of an industrial park that would be set up. The second was of another sister city, a third between the governments of Gujarat and a Chinese province. Well, that was business. And then it was the evening clearly reserved for a larger cultural experience. Right on the left-hand side is when Narendra Modi himself played tour guide to the Chinese head of state, took him through the museum dedicated to the Mahatma Gandhi at the banks of the Sabarmati. And right in the middle is what you're witnessing right now, a cultural fiesta at the riverfront where Narendra Modi walking alongside the Chinese president and his wife Ping Luan and taking them through the cultural expanse been rolled out for them. And they're going to walk towards three Swiss luxury tents that have been pitched right at the Sabarmati Riverfront for an early dinner at about 7:30 p.m. And the reason why this dinner is early is because both Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping will be making their way back to Delhi by the evening. And the day two of Xi Jinping's visit will be marked purely by business.